Hey guys, so how's it going? I thought I would do a Friday Reads today. I don't know if I will make these a regular thing again. I was doing them for a while earlier in the year. At the very beginning of the year, I was going to try to not do them so much and do more wrap-ups, but then COVID hit, and these became a good way to just sort of give weekly updates. By the way, here is your daily dose of Bessie. So I don't know whether these will become a regular thing for the rest of the year or what, but anyway, I thought I would do one now since it's the beginning of a new semester. I'm just sort of getting back into the swing of things on BookTube. As you can probably tell, I'm very excited to be back on BookTube because I've been making a video like every other day for the past week, and that's been a lot of fun, but anyway, I do want to get back into doing more like serious book review-y kind of videos. But anyway, so this week was technically the first week of the semester, so I had class myself. I'm TAing for a class. I talked to my advisor yesterday for the, he and I talked over the summer too, but yesterday we sort of talked about what we're going to work on this semester and such. But I've sort of, so I've had responsibilities and such, but I've sort of, and everything's remote, so all my own classes and the class I'm TAing for are all remote, so that's great. I feel very lucky in that regard because I have some friends at other universities who are having to TA or teach, period, in person, and I'm just worried about them. And but anyway, I feel very lucky. Even though this was the first week of the semester, I sort of took it easy and just did kind of the bare minimum, just because I felt like I deserved that after taking my qualifying exam. So, I've been attending class virtually and doing anything else that I need to do for TAing and other things, but basically just relaxing, reading, watching movies, listening to music, whatever. Next week I will hit the ground running and get to work on various projects that I'm going to be doing this semester. So anyway, but that's a small life update. Other than that, I don't have much going on. I did fall. I tried to go on a run on Tuesday earlier this week, and I managed to trip myself, and I went flying onto the sidewalk and scratched myself in several places, and also either bruised a rib or cracked a rib. I'm not sure, but I did something to my rib cage. I certainly didn't break a rib, because I think I would be in a lot more pain if I broke a rib, but I certainly at least bruised a rib, and so that's more uncomfortable than it is super painful or anything like that. But it seemed like a bad omen to me, so I'm hoping that my semester doesn't come crashing down around my ears after this, but we will hope for the best. Anyway, in terms of my weekend plans, obviously I'm going to talk about what I'm going to read later, but I also tomorrow really need to do a head-to-toe cleaning of my apartment. I do that once every month or so. I'm not systematic about when I do it, but I probably do an average of once a month, or maybe once every 2 months. Maybe I'm being a bit too generous, but I really do need to clean my apartment thoroughly, and I think I might also do some rearranging. I think I might move the desk where I work from out in the sort of living room area to in here into my bedroom. But that would also necessitate moving a couple of bookcases, not these ones, but ones over in the corner there, which are smaller. So I might be doing some rearranging in addition to some cleaning. I also need to do laundry and dishes. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a busy weekend, but I honestly don't mind doing housework. I can listen to podcasts or whatever, or listen to music while I'm doing it. But yeah, so that won't take long. Cleaning never takes as long as I think it will, because I live in a one-bedroom apartment, which is tiny, yeah, so that won't take long. Other than that, I'll be relaxing and reading, and then Monday I'll be all refreshed and ready to get to work. In addition to reading, which I promise I will get to the books, but in addition to reading, I've been watching movies this week. I've been watching a lot of movies this year in general. I've probably watched more movies this year than I have any other year, and I think that is caused by a combination of being inside so much because of COVID-19, and also the film club that Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse and I have been hosting every week. has that we do when we would love to have anyone who wants to join us. Just let me know in the comments if you want to join, but and we can talk about that. But he and I are hosting a film club every week, every Wednesday, and we have several people from BookTube and from in real life and such watch a movie and then talk about it. And I think that's been like really setting my love of film into high gear, I suppose. And so I've been watching a lot of movies just because of that club and outside the club. So for the club this week, we watched Marketa Lazarová, which is a Czech film directed by František Vlačil. It came out in 1968, and it's sort of ostensibly a historical epic, but is very like weird and modernist and experimental and difficult to follow, but absolutely gorgeous. I found it mesmerizing. The soundtrack, the visuals, the cinematography, the acting was brilliant. It was just, I thought, one of those films where it will open up a lot on multiple viewings, and yeah, I certainly will be rewatching it. It is a fascinating film. It's widely considered to be the greatest Czech film ever made. So I thought it was cool for that, and it's on YouTube too. I will leave a link to it if I remember. If you are interested in Czech cinema or cinema in general. And the other film I watched was The 400 Blows, directed by François Truffaut, and obviously a masterpiece of the French New Wave. I am enough of a neophyte with film as an art form that was actually the first French New Wave film I had ever seen, and I did enjoy it. I found the main actor, the lead performance, to be brilliant. I thought that he was just excellent. I found the story very engaging. I found it to be a very engrossing movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I am excited to watch much more French New Wave films. And the films that I might watch this weekend, I am definitely going to be watching Cold War, directed by Pawel Pawlikowski. And I've actually watched Cold War before, and I thought it was excellent. And I've also watched Pawel Pawlikowski's other film, Ida, which is about a woman in communist Poland who is a nun, who wants to take vows as a nun. She's sort of been in training to become a nun, and but before the abbess will allow her to take vows finally, the abbess tells her that she needs to go meet her only living relative, who is her aunt, and her aunt reveals to her that she's actually Jewish and that her parents died in the Holocaust. And then so the main character, whose name is Ida, and her aunt go on this quest to find the remains of her parents, and that's like one of my favorite movies ever. Cold War is also great. It's not, I don't love it quite in the way that I love Ida, but I adore it. It's brilliant. Yeah, so I'll be rewatching Cold War, and I'm watching that sort of so I can chat about it with Jason, because he mentioned that he was going to watch it, so I'll be leaving him a Voxer message about it. And then in terms of what else I might watch, I'm not sure. For some reason I feel possibly in the mood for rewatching Lost in Translation, which is directed by Sofia Coppola, which is one of my favorite movies. I think it's beautiful, a beautiful story. I love the two lead performances. Although incidentally, I have not watched anything else directed by Sofia Coppola, which is a shame. So maybe I'll do that instead. But anyway, and then I have box sets of Hitchcock, of like early Hitchcock films. So they're not the great Hitchcock films. They're not like Psycho or Vertigo or Rebecca. They're like his very early work that was more sort of I don't know, sort of more stereotypical Hollywood stuff, a bit, I guess arguably a bit less artistic, a bit less deep, quote unquote, and a bit more just pure entertainment. But I've watched 3 films on that set, and I've enjoyed them all. So I might watch some Hitchcock too, but who knows? I have a lot of films on my Netflix and my Hulu that I haven't watched that I could watch, and on Amazon Prime and such. So we will see. But the other big project, I promise you I am getting to the books. The other big project that I'm going to be engaging in this weekend and next week is a big Verdi project, by which I mean the Italian composer, Giuseppe Verdi. I have not kept secret my love of opera on this channel, and Verdi is obviously a, monumental figure in opera, and I have never been the biggest fan of him. I feel like a lot of the stories of his operas are a little ridiculous, and while I adore some of his individual arias, I find the pieces as a whole don't do much for me. But this week, the Metropolitan Opera as a part of their nightly streaming service. So the Metropolitan Opera, ever since the beginning of COVID, they've obviously closed. They obviously haven't been having performances because, you know, crowds. But they've been doing nightly streams of operas, of old recordings of performances, and they've done it for months now. But this upcoming week, they're doing a Verdi week, and so they're doing 7 operas by Giuseppe Verdi, and those operas are Rigoletto, which I really like. I have watched, and I like a lot of the music from it. Il Trovatore, which I have not, which I just listened to for the first time today, and have not seen. Luisa Miller, which I have watched but never listened to, which I do actually quite like. La Traviata, Don Carlo, which I have listened to and is quite good. Un ballo in maschera, and Falstaff. And so I have compiled a playlist of all the music from those operas on Spotify, and I'm going to listen to all of them this weekend and then watch Verdi week, basically, and try to, like, get the measure of Verdi, you know, try to, like, figure out whether I like him or not, because, you know, I love Luisa Miller. I like the music of Rigoletto more than I like the story, but it's still decent. But I like a lot of the music from Rigoletto. I love the story of Luisa Miller and a lot of the music too. And Don Carlo, I'm a little bit indifferent to, which is probably gonna ruffle some feathers because Don Carlo is widely considered to be Verdi's masterpiece. But yeah, I want to just like immerse myself in Verdi for a week and see if I can sort of figure out whether I like him or not, because there are still a lot of operas by him that I haven't seen. The only 3 that I've watched are Don Carlo, Luisa Miller, and Rigoletto. So, you know, that leaves out a lot of heavy hitters. I haven't seen Otello, for example, which isn't in this lineup. But anyway, so that is going to be a big project for me, and that actually leads nicely into my first book, finally. Almost, I think, more than 10 minutes in, we come to the books finally. But the book that I've been primarily working on this week is Listen to This by Alex Ross. Alex Ross is the music critic for The New Yorker magazine, and he's written one other book called The Rest is Noise, the subtitle for which is Listening to the 20th Century, which is just sort of a cultural history of 20th century music, and which I would really like to read because it sounds just right up my alley. And he has a new book coming out later this year called Wagnerism. And I forget the subtitle, it's kind of long, but it's about the influence that Richard Wagner has had on on many different artistic figures in music and outside of music. And again, I'm a huge Wagner fan, so that sounds like right up my alley. But this is his 3rd book. He only has 3 books, and this is a collection of basically essays that he wrote for The New Yorker and other venues, and just covering a whole wide range of topics. The title essay, Listen to This, is about how at the age of 20 he stopped being a classical music snob. For his early years, he was like purely a classical music guy, and then he went to college and started to meet people who were into like punk rock and these other kinds of genres, and became less of a snob. There's an essay which I really enjoyed about how technology has changed the music industry and musical performance and such. There's an essay about a particular bass line that has appeared in many sort of love pieces of music, romantic pieces of music, I suppose, but not romantic in the capital R, just romantic in the sense of love, and in particular in sad romantic songs. And there's a piece about Mozart, there's a piece about Schubert, about Verdi, funnily enough. There's a piece about Radiohead and Bjork. He writes a little bit about Kurt Cobain, Marian Anderson. There's an essay about the decline of music education in America. So it ranges over a wide number of topics, and it really is a great read. He can get into nitty gritty of music at times. In particular in that one essay about the bass line that's occurred in many sad pieces of music throughout history. He can get into the nitty gritty of music, but he never sacrifices readability, and he's always just really readable, really fun, really accessible. He talks about pop, quote unquote, musicians like Bjork. I know pop with scare quotes because, like, defined broadly as music that isn't classical music, so including like punk rock and hardcore and whatever. He talks about musicians like Bjork and Radiohead and again Kurt Cobain and others with the same kind of finesse that he talks about Schubert and Mozart. He doesn't condescend to them. He gives them the same credit that he gives them, which is just my jam. And my favorite essays in here, I think, are the individual sort of profiles of different artists and composers, who I've already listed many of, because those are great ways to just get recommendations and to get into those musicians' work. For example, I have not listened to any Bjork. I've known about her for a long time. It's hard not to come by her if you're like a serious music fan of like modern music. But I haven't listened to any of her. But like I feel like this book has given me the impetus to start listening to her once I'm done with my big Verdi project. And same thing with like Radiohead and among others, and Schubert too. I haven't listened to all that much Schubert, but this, I think his essay on Schubert has given me a nice kick in the butt to listen to some of them. So yeah, it's just a great accessible collection. If you're interested in contemporary or classical music, then I think you would really, really enjoy this. And I'm almost done. I should finish it this weekend. Yeah, definitely a recommend if you're into the subject. And then the book that I just finished this morning is a play. It's Saint Joan by Bernard Shaw, or George Bernard Shaw, if you will. And this, I believe, was published in the 1920s, 1923. And so I mentioned in my summer wrap-up that I've been very into plays recently. I'm in a very drama mood. Drama as in the theater, not drama as in like booktube drama or something. I'm in a very drama mood, and I think that might have to do with the coming of ShakeTube next month. But it also has to do a bit with Clouds of Sils Maria, which is a film which deals a lot with theater, which I have gotten sort of obsessed with earlier in the year. And so I've been reading plays, and this is the latest one. And so it's about Joan of Arc, and about her sort of rise and fall, her rise and leadership in the French war against England, who was invading back in the 1400s, I believe, and then her burning at the stake as a heretic, basically by political machinations on the side of the English. And I thought it was an interesting story in terms of like exploring that sort of idea of messianism, because Joan of Arc views herself as a sort of messiah, as this sort of messenger of God who, she talks about hearing voices and stuff from God, and that, she wins victories in the name of God for France and such. And many people are willing to believe it, especially after she wins a great victory at Orleans, or Orléans, if you will. And the Catholic Church, of course, feels the need to contain that. But anyway, I thought it was interesting in that sense, in the sense that she is this messiah figure, but she doesn't seem to be... well, it would have been interesting to see where Joan would have gone if she had survived. Like, would she have stayed a hero, or would she have sort of become a monster, But what's also interesting is that the people who had her burned at the stake aren't portrayed as evil. They're not portrayed as these sort of conniving political schemers. They're portrayed as people who genuinely think that she might be, an agent of the devil. Which at the time, I mean, people literally believe that someone could be an agent of the devil. And I thought that was very interesting and daring of Bernard Shaw to portray them in that way, and to portray Joan in a very compelling fashion. She's a really fascinating character. I would love to see a stage adaptation of this, but I probably won't ever because, well, for one thing, the theaters are all closed, but for another thing, the theater is expensive these days. So, and who knows when the next production of Saint Joan will be, right? Anyway, I finished that today. I really liked it. And in terms of what I might read this weekend, obviously I will be finishing Listen to This by Alex Ross, but what I also will be continuing with is this, which is The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud. I read just over 100 pages of it earlier in the year, and I would really, really like to finish it by the end of the year. So I will be trying to chip away at that. I won't be reading it quickly. It'll be a sort of side book. And then two other books that I think I might start this weekend are The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. I said in my wool gathering video at the beginning of the year that I wanted to read more novels this year, and I have been doing abysmally with that. I think I've only read 10 novels out of 70 books. I've read a lot of plays and such, and like, you know, some epic poems, but I've been doing really badly in terms of that goal of reading more, like, just normal fiction. So, Edith Wharton, I read 2 novels by her last year and just was blown away by both, so I'm really excited to read that one. Then the other book I think I might start is this. This is Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor. And this is, as I understand it, about breathing and the sort of breathing techniques that have been sort of lost in our modern day and that were prominent throughout much of human history, sort of among, you know, Buddhist monks, Jesuits, and others. And the sense I get is that James Nestor is saying that because we've forgotten these ancient techniques of breathing, we've lost a lot of our health. Like, it's sort of a self-help book, basically. The reason that I'm reading it is because my dad gave it to me. My dad read it, and he, I guess, thought that it was great. My dad can tend to be a bit too infatuated with sort of fad diets, but also, not necessarily fad diets, but stuff that's in that vein, stuff that's, like, he thinks will be this, like, magic fix for whatever problem he's having. And so that's why I think he liked this book so much. But it does sound interesting. It does sound like it has some history and maybe some insights. I don't know. But it has gotten good reviews. I've heard it's well written and everything. So I want to read it for his sake and because I think it might end up being interesting. But you will hear about whether or not it is. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I think this video turned out to be longer than I wanted it to be. But anyway, you knew that when you married me. I will sign off now, let you all go. I hope you have a good weekend. And I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.